It's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and today I am finally getting around to doing a requested video for one of my subscribers. This is my take on the Watercolour Buttercream drip cake trend. I just took these cakes out of the freezer, so that's why I'm adding on some simple syrup to all of these cake layers, and then I'm just using my favorite Italian meringue buttercream. Whenever I'm using cakes from the freezer, I always use the simple syrup to help keep the moisture in the cake and prevent any drying out from occurring. When I was first starting to make cakes, I was taught how to crumb coat the cake in one layer, and then I was taught how to layer it again one more time to get rid of all of those spots of the cake that are showing. However, I just never really got the hang of it, so my motto is go ahead and coat this as many times as you need to. Just make sure that in between each coat you're putting it into the fridge so it solidifies so you get a nice starting buttercream base. One of the most important parts of when you're doing this portion is you make sure that you swipe around first, and then that little excess portion at the top, you can kind of just take your spatula and swipe it forward to make sure that you get that sharp edge as well as get rid of that excess buttercream. Now you'll notice I wasn't too picky there. There were a few bald spots there, but I'm going to be adding more buttercream onto this because we're going to do this watercolor portion. Now the whole trick of getting the watercolor buttercream is you just want to make sure that your colors are super light. Because if you look at a watercolor painting, for example, the colors are always really nice and blended and they're nice and pale. One of the mistakes that I used to make whenever I was mixing colors, and still make from time to time, is adding too much color at once. So it's best to start with literally a drop. Once you've mixed your colors perfectly, then go ahead and add on the buttercream to wherever there still needs to be coverage. I find that whenever I'm doing something a little bit more abstract, I really like how my mistakes help shape the way I'm going to do something. So what I mean by that in this case is any of the bald spots that are still showing, I'm just taking my buttercream and randomly dabbing it onto those spots. Now I've seen a lot of different buttercream cakes done in different ways with this technique. Some people like to really leave that texturization there. Some people like to kind of put all of the watercolor on either the bottom of the cake or the top of the cake. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to end up swiping this all together so it more flows together, kind of like a watercolor painting. Now, if you do find certain spots just are kind of looking muddy instead of having that nice watercolor feel, you can always put a tiny dab of the gel food coloring on your spatula to reincorporate some more color, or you can also use some leftover white buttercream or some white food coloring. Doing the drip portion of a cake is actually really simple if you have the right consistency. So here I'm using some Wilton's Candy Melts in bright white, and I've added quite a bit of vegetable oil. I never measure how much oil I'm actually putting into the chocolate, but I will say this, I use this trick where I mix the chocolate and the oil together, and when I lift up the spoon and I drop the chocolate back into itself, there's very little texturization. It all just kind of melds back together. I wanted to add a little bit of glamour, so all I'm doing here is I'm dipping these giant sprinkles into a little bit of white chocolate and then placing it on. You could do this the other way, where once you drip that chocolate down, you immediately put on some sprinkles, but this really makes it challenging to drip in a consistent manner, so that's why I did it this way. If you just want to do a straight drip without adding anything to the top of the cake, then I would suggest that you generously apply that white chocolate on a lot faster and smooth it out with a spatula. I'm making one of these super classic, super easy, but really beautiful roses. All you do is you take that cutter, and even if you don't have one, you can still mimic this as well. I've done it in different videos in past. And then you just kind of take your balling tool or any tool that you want and make your petals nice and thin. That is the trick to a really beautiful rose. Fold it in half, and then you just kind of roll it up. And the bigger you want your rose, the more of those that you're going to make. You can literally do this 3 or 4 times to make it a really nice full looking rose. To secure on any additional petals, I just use a tiny amount of water, and this really holds the rose together. I also should mention that if you do find that your fondant is sticking to your work surface, just add a little bit of cornstarch. One of the things I learned to do when I was cake decorating is stop waiting so long for things to dry. So this did not need any time to dry at all. If you feel like you need to have a little bit more stability or you want a larger flower, then I suggest you use my lollipop trick. Using up all that leftover buttercream that we made earlier, I'm just adding on some swirls here and there and attaching some macarons that I made previously. I believe these are my chai flavored macarons. And you don't have to do this, but you can add on some rosettes or whatever you please. This is such a versatile type of design that you can just make your own. Anytime I'm given the option, you guys know I love shiny things and sparkly things, so I'm adding on just a little bit of silver luster dust here. And what this actually is it's a paint pot that's activated by water, and it's completely edible. These type of cakes have become so popular in the last kind of 5 years or so, and I think it's great because you can add so many things to this. Chocolate, candy, meringues also look beautiful on this as well. My lovely friend ordered this for her sister, so I am just going to make this little plaque here. I often make plaques if I want to add any birthday signage or any signage at all. If you want something like this to dry super quickly, make sure that you add some Tylose powder when you're mixing up the fondant and then roll it out and cut it out as usual. I am going to adhere this with a little bit of a stick on the back, and I put some fondant on the back of the stick to make sure that it is super secure. Now let's get into the pricing of this cake. The pricing is a little bit on the steeper side because we have a lot of things going on here. The buttercream cake itself would not be that expensive, but we're adding on a lot of things, so this brings it to $120 Canadian. Keep in mind this pricing is really based off of my location as well as my own experience. I already have a very general guide on how to price cakes if you want to check that out, but I am going to be having future videos which will show you even more the differences in pricing cakes between bakeries. I hope you guys enjoyed that requested video. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading daily, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request like this video, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!